And welcome into the Thursday edition of Robbie and Rexroad, 102.5-106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexroad, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. Hope everybody's off to a fabulous start to their day. Joe Rexroad, how we doing? What's going on? It's cold outside.
Yeah, but a degree above freezing per my car, so that's 4 degrees better than yesterday.
That is true.
Optimist.
Improvement.
Yep.
I like it. Nick Keyser, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I don't mind it. I would love to be in a cold weather place and have a place to go skate once I get off of work.
They have ice rinks here.
They do. Not outside, though.
We need to send you to Siberia.
I would not like to go there.
That's cold. You got plenty of ice.
Plenty of ice out there, buddy.
Sheets of ice
Packs
galore.
of skates.
Yeah.
So you just going to, like, one day when you're older and retired, you're just going to ship up to northern Canada and just live there in a hut?
You know, I have thought about that before.
Have you?
Do you like Jordan Tutu back in the day?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
But Jordan Tutu is from where?
He was born there.
He was an Eskimo. Yeah.
Yeah, so you would be bucking the trend of someone born here and saying, I'd like to go up there. Hey,
Yeah, basically.
You know what? I think that we need to balance things out. So if we have some of you going up there, that's fine.
I will have the time one day. One day I will have the time, and then we will come back, and I'll let you know how it went.
The traditional path is generally people from the north moving south
Yeah.
to escape the cold. Keyser wants to take the opposite approach. I respect it.
Yeah, it's fine. Do it. Not now, but at some point. We support you.
We'll have Predators head coach Andrew Brunette joining us at 7:30 today on the program. Preds back in action tonight, taking on the Calgary Flames. 90s night at Bridgestone Arena, Joe.
Okay.
They're giving out slap bracelets to the first 5,000 fans. Predators slap bracelets.
Yeah, okay.
Didn't that take you back?
Yeah.
Weren't a big
the
slap bracelet guy?
No, never had one. I'm more of a swatch guy, but that's more 80s. But I just hope for 90s night there's a lot of good choices musically for 90s night. There's a lot of bad choices for 90s night.
We're inviting the opportunity for Creed tonight. There is a chance.
Yeah, that would be one of the bad choices. So let's see if we can
Scott
do better.
Stapp, again, if you're listening, we love you.
No, we don't. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Don't want to hear his music.
Charles Robinson from 8 to 8:30 today, talking all things NFL. Got a lot to get into with Charles, so looking forward to that coming up at 8 o'clock on the program here today. Mike Vrabel addressing the media yesterday, and it's been an enlightening week of press conferences with Mike Vrabel to this point. Addressed a couple of different things yesterday, which were interesting. He was asked about the internet rumors of his relationship with him and Rand Carthon and all those things that we've discussed about the Titans and what his future could look like here. Here's what Mike Vrabel had to say on that front yesterday at his press conference.
Mike, there's been a lot of, stuff on social media, reports from outside that say, talk about your relationship with Rand, your, perceived unhappiness or whatever here. Do you have to address those types of things with the players? Because most players are on social media and whatnot today.
No, I don't. I don't because, again, if we believed everything that was on social media, it'd be Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and there's no tooth fairy and all that. So I really have never responded to any of those, and we're not going to start now. I know where we're at as an organization. I'm excited to build this thing and to fix this thing and get it to where we want it to be, to win championships with Rand and Chad and A-Rob and a coaching staff and everybody. I mean, that's what our goal is. So, but no, the social media and where that is, and I can't focus on that.
That was Vrabel yesterday discussing the rumors out there about he and Carthon and all that stuff.
Should we go? I mean, should we? You got the very next thing because right there, Glennon's. I mean, we may as well, right?
Well, might as well. Let's go. He was asked right after that, does he want to be here? Does he want to be a member of the Tennessee Titans moving forward? Here's what Vrabel said on that.
So you want to be here next year?
Of course I want to be here. Be here as long as we can win and long as we can, do this thing. And it's been great, but it also has been just frustrating this year. Nobody wants to be where we're at. You feel, for the players, having been in that situation, those guys are out there selling out, and you feel for them when you look out there on the field, and we're not winning, or it's pretty obvious. But the one thing that allows me to at least sleep at night is, when the games, we had a clunker in Jacksonville and in Houston, and we're out there, fighting, not letting them run through us, for 40, 50 yards and all that. And I know that there's no moral victories, and that's not a moral victory, but it's just a lot of times in those situations, you can just pack it up and pack it in, and so that's that was last week. This week we have to be in a different situation. Talked about the ability to put ourselves in that competitive situation, where the game has some flow to it, and you make a play, you get a turnover, right? You pin them down, and you start playing complementary. So talk to the team again, about that, and about eliminating, some of the mistakes, that are just, that come at critical times, and that make it tough to overcome.
So that was Vrabel yesterday at the press conference there. A lot said there from Vrabel.
A lot of words.
He's turned into a verbose media darling this week. What did you make of those answers from Mike Vrabel?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, the second one there, he says, of course I'm going to be here, and then it just on into whatever to talk about something else. But first of all, as soon as the press conference is over, I said, he's walking in the locker room like, Mike, do you think kids listen to your press conferences?
Well, he's clearly on the naughty list.
Yeah. And
Clearly
he looked back like, what? I'm like, what are you doing?
Clearly on the naughty list.
Yeah, so, for anybody listening, he's just being a curmudgeon.
He's taking out his anger.
Yeah.
From being on the naughty list.
Exactly. That was – and then he's like, I can't win. And he went in the locker room. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but, like, what are you doing?
Pristine lump of coal.
Yeah.
Is what the word on the street is.
Yeah. But, I'm good job, Terry McCormick, asking the question. I actually agree with what Jared said yesterday on another loss to me in Jared versus Joe, which is attributing this to social media is a cop-out. I mean, it's not just social media. There are a lot of reports.
Right.
If there are people on Twitter just saying, yeah, that Mike Vrabel, I bet you he's going to do this or that. Well, yeah, then you can just laugh it off. That's not what this is. There are reporters who have interviewed and covered Mike Vrabel before, up in Boston, who are reporting things. So, I mean, which is fine. Yeah, I'm not like ripping Terry, but it's just like, it's a little bit of an out you gave him. But, it's good it was asked. It's good Vrabel addressed it. I've seen a lot of situations like this, and I don't know what else you're going to say. I've never seen a situation like this where the person in question is like, yeah, well, guys, to be honest with you, I am thinking about leaving.
Right.
I'm not very happy. Thank you for asking. Now I can go ahead and set the record straight here.
I'll be honest with you. My first reaction when I heard his comments about, yeah, of course I want to be here as long as I feel like we can win.
Yeah,
the first thing I thought about was, okay, well, does he think they can still win? Because everybody else, everybody was treating this yesterday as like, oh, well, you can forget about Vrabel leaving now.
Set the record
He's shutting
straight.
it down. And I was like, yeah, I don't know that I necessarily took it that way.
Yeah. No, I mean it's how you need to answer it. No, and I'm not saying, oh, clearly he wants out.
Sure.
You can tell he scratched his ear on the third word. He clearly wants out of here. I'm not saying that, but just saying, good job asking it. Good that he addressed it. I mean, he really hasn't talked about, this stuff. I don't think he's talked about it since, like the speech at New England and that whole presser where he started going off on Jared like Don Corleone on Johnny Fontaine. You can act like a man. I mean, I think it's been a few weeks, so but I mean, honestly, my thought on what may happen from here isn't really different.
No.
I mean, I think he's going to be here. I think there's a much better chance that it's Mike Vrabel coach, Ran Carthon, GM, moving into the next offseason and seeing what they can do, and a lot of pressure on them, than any other scenario. But I don't know that a trade won't happen. I don't know that a firing won't happen. That would really surprise me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine. Like, there's no way, even if Vrabel actually is behind the scenes making all this stuff happen. Again, I'm not saying I think that's the case, but I'm saying even if it were true, then I think that that's basically the answer we would have gotten.
Well, I mean, think about, do you still want to be here? And he just go, no.
Right.
No, I don't.
Let me think on that. Can I get back to you?
I'll get back to you.
Come back Friday when I give you the inactives, and I'll tell you if I want to be here or not.
So, again, look, I'm not saying that Vrabel is up there lying or anything. I'm just saying I don't know, even if he didn't want to be here or if there was an opportunity for him to be traded, whatever. Like, he's going to answer the question that way. So I saw a lot of, well, you can put all that stuff to bed yesterday that I just don't necessarily buy into. Like, I'm with you. Like, I think by far the most likely scenario is that he's back as head coach next year and Carthon's the GM, and they say, Amy Abstract says, you got an opportunity to fix this. Go fix this offensive line. Go fix this roster and see if you can start to build on that next year. That's still, to me, by far the most likely outcome of this. But me leaving the door open of a trade to New England or elsewhere, it didn't change with Vrabel's answers yesterday.
Which has nothing to do with, I mean, he doesn't control that anyway.
Well, that's the thing. And he can't just leave and go somewhere else
unless he wants
going to college.
Right. Or unless he wants to sit out or go to college. So it's – look, I think that if you gave Mike Vrabel the scenarios of you can fix it here, you guys can have great offseason, Levis will be great, you'll fix it here, turn it around, or you can go somewhere else, I don't doubt that Vrabel would pick fixing it here, I mean, I think that there's a lot of pride there and a lot of misery about what's happened. I mean, that's been clear this week, right?
Sure.
So I think he'd much rather fix this situation and know that it's going to be good, than anything else. But yeah, as long as we can win, or as long as we're winning, or whatever he said exactly, as long as we're winning, right? I think that's what he said.
I think he said as long as we can win.
As long as we can win, yeah. Well, can you?
Any Trey Avery questions yesterday?
What's that?
Any Trey Avery questions yesterday? Or do we leave those out?
Excuse me, I got to interrupt, Mike. But I was wondering about Trey Avery, 99% completion percentage against him, PFF grade of 1.3.
0.
Mike.
What do you think of what Mike Vrabel had to
poor
say
Glennon.
yesterday at his press conference? Did his comments shut down the possibility in your mind that he could be headed elsewhere this offseason? We'll take your thoughts on all that. 615-737-1025. This is Robbie and Rex Road, 1025-1063, The Game.
Hey, folks, Joe Rex Showed here talking FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Obviously, the NFL regular season is wrapping up, and new customers for FanDuel will get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. $150, bonus bets, win or lose. I'm going to give you one tip for this weekend. I like the Texans going into Indy, outright winning that game. Take it or leave it from me. But this app is so easy to use, so many different ways to bet. You got the live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. There's a parlay hub. You can make a parlay in there, and that's the best way to find the popular parlays and much more than that. Visit FanDuel.com, insert promo code Joe102, make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. You must be 21 years old, President, Tennessee, first island, room money wager only, $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is now withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbet.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 800-889-9789.
Welcome back in. Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls, Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Mike Vrabel says, of course, he wants to be here. Yesterday at his press conference, I got a text that says Rexrode should only use the phrase "be a dude" when referring to the evisceration of Stillman by Vrabel. I think that's what you did, right?
No, but well, yeah, that is what he said. Be a dude, which is cool. But I mean, that is totally. I'm sorry, but like that is totally. Johnny Fontaine can't get that film, and he goes to Connie's wedding, Connie Corleone's wedding. We all know this, right? Like, I mean, You know this.
Yes.
Nick Keyser, The Godfather.
Yeah.
Have you seen
Very
this
famous
movie?
film.
I haven't seen it in a long time. I was young when I watched it with my parents.
All
Okay.
right. I guess I'll accept
counts.
that. All right. But anyway, I mean, that's, Johnny's like, hey, Don, I just don't. And then all of a sudden, the Godfather's just calm, and he's sitting there, and he's like, you can act like a man.
Spoiler alert.
Yes. I mean, well, that's fine. I got Kaharski over here telling me what happens at the end of the John Wick series the other day. Anyway, that I can't get that out of my head when I think about Vrabel scolding Stillman.
It's pretty good.
Excuse me, Mike. Trey Avery, though. Can we talk about him, please?
Did Glennon receive some flack yesterday at the press conference?
Not enough. The only flack I gave him is that he was wearing shorts. It was 22 degrees outside. Like, dude, come on.
Put the pants on. What's going on out there?
I need to send Glennon like the podcast of our opening segment yesterday.
I'm sure you'd love it.
Yeah.
Just beautiful stuff.
Mike, the PFF rating for Trey Avery. Can we talk about that? I'll respect decide your future.
So you and I both said we don't think that necessarily shuts everything down yesterday from what Vrabel had to say. It is going to be interesting. I mean, this week you got the final week of the regular season, and then Black Monday comes around next Monday. I'm with you. Like the idea that he's going to be fired, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Vrabel's going to be the head coach or he's going to be traded, one of the two. I don't think he's going to be fired. It is going to be interesting to see around the league who all gets let go next week. Like, is it immediately, like right after the season where there's a mutual parting of ways or whatever it is? Like, or do they, I heard Fitz yesterday on with Jared talking about how he's not convinced that Belichick's going to be out in New England. So, like, does that happen? Is Belichick still there? If not, what does that look like? I mean, we've just kind of assumed for weeks now that Belichick is out in New England. But I am interested next Monday after the season, that those first few days after the regular season ends, how much coaching movement is there, and will New England be a part of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's that. I mean, what are the other – I mean, that's the big one that everybody's focused on. It appears Eberflus is gonna hang in there in Chicago. That's what the reporting says.
I would assume
Arthur Smith
Washington
is a big one. Yeah, Rivera probably out. Arthur Smith is definitely really interesting. I mean, they can still win the division.
They could.
So
unlikely, but they could.
Unlikely, but if they just win, like, what does that mean? The Raiders situation is, has Pierce done enough to keep that job?
Players are campaigning hard for him.
Players campaigning hard, but I mean, I can't recall an interim situation. I'm sure there have been some, but for the most part, interim coach situations, players campaign for that coach.
Sure,
I guess Salah's keeping his job.
Looks that way.
I mean, they're going to try to give it a go with Mr. QAnon over there, Aaron Rodgers. He's having a good week.
He is.
Nice job, McAfee. Let's see, who else out there? That's about it, right? I think those are the big. Well, Dennis Allen too. That's another one. I mean, that NFC South, man. Tell you what, that's an interesting division. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and of course, I think Harbaugh. I mean, we got somebody on the text line throwing us a Harbaugh, a little Harbaugh with the Titans logo on his hat thing. So
don't think that's going to happen.
No, I do think he's going to be somewhere.
I agree.
I think the coveted job is the Chargers, right?
Yes. I mean, I'm looking at the other ones that are open or we think could be open. I mean, Chargers would probably be at the top of the list, right? Just because of the quarterback.
I would think so.
Although, and I'm kind of with people, like at some point, don't we need to see a little bit more from Herbert before we just crown him the next guy?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, you want him to win a playoff game. You want him to, and he was certainly not the biggest culprit, but not blow a huge lead in a playoff game last year. He seems to have all the ingredients, right? I mean,
he does.
I'd be happy to have him as my quarterback. Now, you're also, as we know in this league, because of the salary cap, it's nice to have the QB on the, on that first deal.
Sure.
That's where the Bears thing is so interesting. The whole Justin Fields, they like him. He's good. I was hanging out with a bunch of Bears fans. All the Iowa writers, all the Iowa people are like Bears fans, So
they have to watch the Bears and that Iowa offense.
Exactly.
It's good stuff.
So I watch the Bears along with the Titans with them, and it's like, yeah, be happy if Justin Fields stays and Marvin Harrison and all that stuff. But then again, you start the clock on Caleb Williams, and it's probably a little bit better, right?
You would think.
The clock starting anew is a nice thing.
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Kenny the mailman. Kenny, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hello, good friends. Happy New Year.
You too, Kenny.
Happy New Year.
Thank you very, very much. It's been a long season, but I gotta at least admire the Titans. They're trying different things and whatever they can come up with. Did you notice last Sunday they were going to sneak Andre Dillard's twin brother Andrew in the game?
I did notice that. Yes.
And they even gave him Andre's number, which was even trickier. They changed jerseys back and forth.
That's sneaky Vrabel.
Drew Dillard.
Yeah, but now I will hand it to them. They had commercials that if you renew your season tickets now, they're not going to up the price for the next 2 years. Did y'all notice that?
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be buy one, get one free the way they're saying?
Bogo.
I mean, it's a good way. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Kenny. Kenny's on his A game to begin the new year. It's good stuff.
Bogo. I like it. Good job, Kenny.
If you buy one, we'll give you 6 more. Come on in. Hey, got Levis to look forward to if you're a Titans fan. That's all I can tell you right now.
That is true. Probably not this week.
Probably not this
Although
week.
he was adamant. I mean, he wants to play, and he talked. So,
he talked.
But, yes, he did talk.
He talked. There's no question about that. Said some things that, honestly, when I read it in print yesterday, I was like, oh, boy. And then I saw the video, and I was like, okay. Not quite as big of a deal as I thought, but it certainly got the people going yesterday on Twitter. No question about that. We'll get into that coming up next. You're listening to Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Have you had some people? Have you encountered some people during your time here that maybe admitted that they didn't like you before, that maybe have grown to like you here?
Yeah, or even people that still don't like me. But yeah, I mean, you got to respect it. If someone, if you're a Vol fan and you don't like me simply because you're a Vol fan, like, you better stay on that hill. Don't change, don't switch up now. But no, I mean, I'm opening all fans of us or of the Titans with open arms, and hopefully, at least since I got drafted, maybe I've been able to change some people's opinions.
How's Will Levis yesterday over at St. Thomas Sports Park? So I saw like the quote that he had there about Vol fans. Just Sam Phelan from A to Z Sports wrote it out there, and I was like, oh boy. And I looked at the comments from Sam Phelan's tweet, and they were about what you would expect from Tennessee fans and Kentucky fans alike. Quote, if you're a Vol fan and you don't like me simply because you're a Vol fan, you better stay on that hill. Don't change up now. If you actually watch him and listen to what he's saying there, it was a little bit more lighthearted than the written quote makes it out to be. But I liked it. Good stuff there from Will Levis, and Vol Twitter got all over that one yesterday, Joe.
Yeah,
fun to see.
Do you have the part where because it's actually my fault this happened because I was just trying to get him to say something funny. But I was like, is there a particular fan base that you're speaking of, Will? And he's like, I know you guys would like me to say something. And then eventually he
got there.
He got there. But, I mean, it's all in good fun. Sorry, I'm sorry. Oh, God. Josh from Dixon said, actually, Aaron Rodgers did have a great week per the documents I've read. My God, Josh, please stop it. Please stop it. Dude. All right, move on.
Move on.
Yeah, move on. Thank you, Josh. I'll look at your website that has these amazing documents soon.
The Will Levis part of this is interesting. I was thinking about this yesterday as he was talking, and we were kind of looking through some of the videos after that, and thinking about the conversation about him pre-draft, right? Of just the personality and all those things that we talked about with Levis and what that looks like, and the concerns there from some people. I think he's been extremely likable since he's been here. And, I've not spent any time around him like you have, but just through the press conferences that I've seen, his teammates being mic'd up on the sideline over there, him being mic'd up a time on the sideline. I really like the personality that I've seen from Levis to this point. And I think based on the reaction that I've seen from some Titans fans, I think that has taken people by surprise a little bit how likable he's been since he's been here. And I agree with you. If he ends up being a good player, around the league, other fan bases are not going to like him just based on, the Miami game, I think, is a good example, right? He comes off the field and he's just going nuts and screaming and yelling and all that stuff. And when you're a Titans fan, you love that. If you're playing against him, it would be obviously somebody that you root against. But I've been pleasantly, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but I guess his personality has been a little bit more engaging and well received by Titans fans than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole idea of Will Levis's personality was rooted in 2 TikTok videos and then, pre-draft talk, and Vols fans who I get not liking him because he was very, he was very brash and loud and clearly. What is going on here with the what is that?
I don't know.
Why won't this stop? 6 o'clock hour. Do you hear that?
No.
It continues to happen. Every time I talk, I'm making this thing shake.
Is it Eddie George? Eddie George bobblehead?
I don't know. Okay, did that stop it?
I guess so.
I guess that was Eddie George.
It was Eddie George. Thanks, Eddie.
But, Vols fans didn't like his personality in those games. You don't like players who are like him on the field. Now, they beat him twice, as Levis pointed out yesterday, right? He lost both games to them, so, But I do agree with what I saw from some people, which is the Vols Titans fans who were it's just about I didn't think he was good.
Right.
I mean, I still think that the most reasonable people on this topic who weren't happy about Will Levis were just they didn't think he was good. I mean, he was terrible against the Vols last year, like they were. The Wildcats were. The offensive line was. The Vols defense looked like the 85 Bears in that game.
Yep.
You know, so I buy that. Like that was still the bigger complaint.
I heard that one.
What is happening?
I don't know. Table's falling apart over there. Brandon on Twitter says, I'm a Vol fan that was not impressed by any of his college games that I watched. He's still not proven himself to me, and I've become a casual Titans fan since his drafting. Still waiting. This is from Brandon on Twitter. So Brandon not impressed by what he's seen to this point.
Yeah, again, that's all fair. Like if you're not convinced that he's going to be good, that's fine. It's the dude. What is happening?
We're going to have to move past it.
I know. I
Let's go.
understand. That's fine. You can get mad at me, but I'm seriously distracted because it's bothering the crap out of me. Did you hear that?
Yes, we hear it.
Nick Kaiser, what is happening in here? I can't speak? I forgot my point. I mean, dude, do people hear this? Do people hear this?
I don't know.
People,
Hit up
let
text
me
line,
know on the text. Let me know on the text
615-737-1025.
on if you're hearing this. This is absolutely insane.
Can you describe said sound? I have
You
no
can't hear
idea.
it? Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
But you can. How can you?
I don't know. I guess because I'm in here.
Because, all right. Anyway, the Levis complaint. Yeah, the personality stuff. I don't think it's that big of a group of people. You know, I mean, I didn't look at the comments on Phelan Street, but like the whole you slap the Vols fans in the face. Like, look, if Charlie Burris actually thinks that like there's some like NFL team should think about stuff like that, then that's fine. I mean, how long did Titans
I
fans?
forgot about that one.
How long did Titans fans care about like Derrick Henry was an Alabama player? You know.
I don't think very long.
Right. So most people, it's the reasonable. Yes, Mark says there is a rattle. Thank you, Mark. Most people, it's the reasonable just question about whether he's good enough. And that's fine. I mean, that's a totally fair question going to next year. Now, the whole, don't switch up now, I think Levis will let you be his fan if everything works out.
He did say after that he would welcome all Titans fans with open arms.
Yeah. So
a nice olive branch from Will Levis to the Tennessee Vols fans yesterday. I enjoyed it. But the reaction to the tweet yesterday, I mean, Tennessee Twitter was all over it. I even saw some like Vols fans that are Titans fans that were like, "Well, I liked him, but I don't know, man. I don't know if I can do this anymore." And I was like, "Geez, just calm down, guys.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay."
Yeah, like if you're actually a Titans fan, like then and he's actually good, all will be forgotten. Right now,
yes.
if it doesn't work out, then I guess the Titans Vols fan at some point will say, "I told you so," and it was never going to work out.
Yes,
I hated him all along. I pretended to like him, but I hated him. But
I bought his jersey.
It'll be
but
fine. If
we
he wins, it'll be fine.
Didn't really buy his jersey. It was just kind of over there off the side. We left it over there.
It was just Mario's jersey.
We taped over it.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Everybody can hear it, by the way. The whole text line is blown up. People can hear it. So
we got to discover
Nick
what
Kaiser,
it is.
In the break, you need to fix this.
So is this like, or is the table going to collapse?
I don't know. It's like, I can't.
You hear a big crash.
Yeah.
Something's gone wrong with Rex Road.
Yeah. I mean, my chair seems secure, so that's good. But
we've had something crash before on the program.
Thing. Yeah, someone said it's a deep space sound. Oh, someone said weird stuff, probably linked to the documents. Yes,
Maybe
exactly.
so.
Thank you.
Maybe so. Now we got people making Creed jokes on the text line. Dustin says, with arms wide open, Levis to Vols fans.
There we go.
Tying it all together. Will
Nice.
Levis, Scott Stapp, all of it. Beautiful. Way to go, Dustin.
John says, yes, we can hear Joe's nervous breakdown coming through loud and clear. I'm with you. It's getting there. It's not far.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, it's time for the best and worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, our phone number. Make sure you join Jared Stellman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at Teddy's Tavern this Sunday at 9:30 to 11:30 for our NFL pregame show. They'll break down the Titans' Week 18 matchup against the Jaguars and give you the latest updates before the game. Our NFL pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Beast Unleashed. You're listening to Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week, now on Robbie and Rex Road.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst.
You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself. Believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go.
It is that time of the week, time for the best and worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, your best and worst things in the world of sports.
A lot of good candidates for worst. Hey, how about that? Whatever it was, it's gone. A lot of candidates for the worst. Best is the semifinals, the college football playoff semifinals. Fantastic games. And it's 2 years in a row that we've had amazing semifinals. We had a lot of blowouts over the years. But 2 years in a row that both semifinals were really good. But these two were fantastic, coming down to a final play.
Can we follow it up with a good national title game? Go 3 for 3?
Exactly. I think we will. I don't think we're going to have Georgia TCU part 2. So yeah, I hope so. I'm hopeful on that. My worst, with apologies to Iowa's offense, which is a very good candidate, and if one of you want to take that, go for it. I got to go with the NFL officiating in the Dallas-Detroit game. Detroit tried to be deceptive, and then Dan Campbell is just going to keep running 2-point plays until he's like at his other goal line. But I mean, the explanation when it was clear that the right guy reported, the other guy didn't report, and Brad Allen trying to say that that's not what happened, basically calling them liars, is such a absence of accountability, and it's just another big screw up from NFL officials in a year full of them. Funny thing is, so they reportedly, per Schefter, that cost them a playoff assignment. But they are on the Colts-Texans primetime game, which some people are like, oh, they got rewarded, but apparently they were on that game before it got switched. So,
which is essentially a playoff game, so maybe.
That's true. This is their playoffs.
It's their playoff game.
So enjoy it. Yep.
It's good stuff. Nick Keiser, your best and worst things in sports.
I'll start with the worst. I saw this last night before I went to sleep. The Anaheim Ducks were actually winning against the Toronto Maple Leafs last night, and they ended up losing in overtime to the Maple Leafs 2-1. But the goalie, Lucas Dostal, made 55 saves in a loss. God, that sucks. Like, I don't know if that's the highest this year. I would say so. I mean, Saros had 64 saves last year against the Hurricanes. I would say that this 23-year-old goaltender definitely has made the most saves this year without me checking. So that definitely sucks. But the Ducks also kind of suck right now too. But that is not good for him whatsoever. But the best thing, I would have to say, Robbie and I talked about this yesterday on Preds Insider, so go check that out. But aside from me calling other people older in the podcast.
Yeah, called Oliver Ekman-Larsson old as dirt at the age of 32.
Yeah, I did. There were a few different ones, so go check it out. But the best thing for the Nashville Predators right now is Gus Nyquist. 9 points in 6 games. And here's a little bit of a factoid for you. He is the oldest Nashville Predators player in franchise history to have at least 2 6-game point streaks that ultimately resulted in him contributing on several really good goals, I would say. But also, I think it's important to keep in mind that he's 34 years old, the most recent player that had this kind of accolade in the middle of the season was Jason Arnott during the 07-08 season. So the Preds have not had someone that's a veteran contribute as much as he has in quite some time. So good to see Gus Nyquist doing that right now.
He's been outstanding. I mean, when they signed him, I thought, okay, well, there's a nice veteran signing that you can flip at the deadline and maybe get a mid-round pick for. And he's been great. And I know he's playing with Forsberg and O'Reilly, so obviously that helps. But he's been outstanding. And like you said, 6-game heater right now for him. He had a 9-game point streak earlier this year.
That was his second best in his entire career, too. His 9-game one.
He's going to end up around, 50, 55 points if he keeps up at this pace. And if you'd told me that for Gus Nyquist at this age before the season, I thought you were crazy. And he looked great.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's been really good. My best thing in sports, Jordan Love, baby. NFC Offensive Player of the Week.
Ooh.
30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions on the year. He's third in the league in touchdown passes with no wide receiver or tight end. That is, actually, he does have one tight end that's caught a pass. It's more than the second year. But no starting tight end or wide receiver that has been in the league for longer than 2 years. A win and in for the Green Bay Packers coming up on Sunday against the Chicago Bears. Jordan Love, my best thing in sports.
That's in Green Bay, right?
That is in Green Bay.
Need to get you and Ryan from Chicago watching that via FaceTime together.
Jordan Love. Love it. Good stuff. My worst thing, I will take the opportunity, thank you, Joe, for the Iowa offense, because my goodness. You know, you knew it was bad, but I'll be honest with you, I've not sat down and watched a ton of Iowa football this year. You know, a lot of college football on throughout the season. You watch other things. Watching Iowa football can play a 60-minute game with that offense, it's amazing that they got the 10 wins this year. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, their defense, it had to be elite, even though I watched them play against Tennessee. They didn't look like an elite defense to me. So I don't know how much of that's a commentary on their defense, how much of that's a commentary on the Big Ten and the teams that they were playing in the Big Ten. But, my God, it is terrible. And, look, the first guy they put in there, I've already forgotten his name.
Deacon Hill.
Deacon Hill, at quarterback for Iowa. God bless him. I don't know that I've ever seen a worse quarterback at the Power 5 level. It was awful to watch on Monday.
Yeah, it's as bad. I mean, it's as bad as advertised, and it just very hard to watch. I got to get to JD from Brentwood said best good semifinal games, worse NFL stars sitting out, which is what's going to happen to college football as the playoffs expand. I mean, I think stars are already sitting out. And first of all, NFL stars sitting out like meaningless games in the end of the regular season is not new at all.
No,
you can go back decades here and there, and it's like if a team had something locked up in the last week, sit guys.
I think Kansas City's locked into the 3 seed in the AFC, so Mahomes isn't playing Sunday. It's like, well, why would you play him?
Yes.
The interesting one is like Baltimore or San Francisco, since you're going to have the bye week anyway. Like, how many people do you sit out and have 2 weeks off? There's the whole rest versus rust argument.
Well, some coaches play their guys, but regardless, I mean, it's not a new phenomenon. But as far as the college football playoffs expanding, I don't understand how that's going to – first of all, there are already players who are opting out of bowl games. College football playoffs expanding means that, for example, Florida State, Georgia, which also could have been worse in sports, that now has all the guys in it because it's a playoff game. So actually it's fewer.
Well, it wouldn't have been those two, but yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, what I'm saying is like those games now that are like the Orange Bowl or whatever that aren't in the playoff where you still have people sitting out, those now will have the guys playing them.
Caleb says the best thing is that this is the last week we have to watch this terrible Titans team. The worst is that this possibly could be Derrick Henry's last week as a Titan. I figured we'd get a few of those from Derrick Henry on the best and worst things in sports, even though we don't officially know yet.
Right, exactly. Yeah, don't know. Worse is Vols fans who don't like Levis because he played at Kentucky. Vol Twitter's so annoying.
Brian says the best is college football. The worst is the NCAA allowing cheaters in the playoff. Taking a shot at Michigan.
Yeah, well, Harbaugh got asked. He got asked about things being vacated. He said something like, "You must live in Rumorville."
I will say I thoroughly enjoy Jim Harbaugh's press conferences. You never quite know what he's going to say.
Did you see what J.J. McCarthy said about sign stealing?
Yeah, he's like 80% of people do it.
Well, he also was like, Ohio State was at a higher level. We had to get to their level.
Yeah.
And then, did you see who he went to try to fix his comments?
No.
Oh my goodness. Do we have enough time? Let me see. Let me see.
We got enough time.
Let me see if I can do some quick fingers for you here. I don't want to give it away until in fact, I'm going to have you guess who it is that J.J. McCarthy went and talked to in the Michigan facility as my computer stops working. God dang it. Oh, here we go. So J.J. McCarthy said this up. People are like, oh, so you admit that Michigan started cheating, right? So here we go. After Michigan practice Wednesday, J.J. McCarthy walked into the facility to chat with me personally to clarify his sign-stealing comments. He told me it's about leveling the playing field.
I'm going to assume Marty Smith was a
There
part of
you
this
go.
conversation.
There you go. And he said he told him it's just about camouflaging our signs.
Okay.
It wasn't about we got to get to
Sure.
it. Yes. So there we go.
I thought it was amazing that Connor Stallions was there the other day.
Oh,
I thought it was unbelievable that Connor Stallions was in attendance at that semifinal game the other day.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I heard some things last week on the whole Stallions Michigan thing that is just, nothing I can repeat, but this is all going to be interesting. And maybe it all gets vacated, but I stand by this. If Michigan wins it, I think those players should get all the credit. I give them all the credit because, I would assume now the cheating isn't working for them, right? Stallions just sitting there in the stands, like someone said. Stallions at the Michigan Bama game, and someone was like, "Shouldn't he be at the other one? Shouldn't he be at the other one right now?
Scouting?
Yeah,
what are you
he'd be
doing?
Getting ready for the championship game."
Jim Harbaugh, Connor, what are you doing here?
Yeah,
Get out there.
We don't need you here, buddy.
Go somewhere else.
I need you to look up, check out those, Washington signs.
By the way, if it gets vacated, I was thinking about this the other day. I guess Louisville's basketball title in 13 gets vacated.
Yep.
Does anybody really care? We all saw Louisville win the national title in 13.
Yeah, everybody who hates Louisville, the Kentucky fans like that's not a title. It doesn't count. Where's the banner? Show me the banner. The banner's not hanging, right?
Like Reggie Bush, he won the Heisman, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
He doesn't have it.
I know,
Right,
but
it's basically just it's a bizarre weak punishment. Punishment should just be for the people who do things.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Titans. Got a lot more to get to on our text line that is blowing up right now. We'll get into all that coming up next. This is Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour 2, Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls, Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexroad, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. We'll have Pred's Pick to Click coming up later this morning at 8:45. Your chance to participate and win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Pick to Click brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. List your home with TJ to get your home seen, heard, and sold. Speaking of the Preds, they're back in action tonight. Andrew Burnett will join us at 7:30, so looking forward to that. Coming up later in the show today, Charles Robinson from 8 to 8:30, talking all things NFL, and I'm sure we'll get into the Titans with Charles as well. The Derrick Henry sentiment this week is been interesting to watch. A lot of Titans fans kind of bracing for the possibility of this being the final game for Derrick Henry in a Titans uniform heading into this week. And it's been, I've seen a lot of videos this week on social media of some of his best highlight runs, be that the 99-yarder against Jacksonville or him tossing Josh Norman aside like a rag doll in the Buffalo game. And there's a lot of runs to choose from and a lot of moments from Derrick Henry. Lots from that one I had forgotten about that is actually one of my favorites is the Baltimore playoff game when he turns Earl Thomas around and kind of uses him like a lead blocker.
Yeah.
There. That's a good one.
Right after Earl Thomas, I don't forget what he said. He said something that week about how they're going to shut down Derrick Henry, and then he's like, here, how about you become my fullback instead?
Get out and make sure you block ahead of us. I mean, it was interesting to bring it up with Kuharski yesterday. So I'll ask you, if this is it, and we don't know, but if this is it for Derrick Henry in the Titans uniform, how do you put into words what he has meant for this franchise and what his legacy as a Titan will be if it's all said and done on Sunday?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, I got about 3,000 words on this coming tomorrow at The Athletic,
all
so
right.
I'm trying to put it into words. But there's a lot, a lot of it is like how it all came about. It's really amazing, actually, how the Titans even ended up with him. It was not supposed to be the case on his end or on their end. But that's what happens sometimes in the NFL draft. And then the journey here, too, I think it's easy to forget the struggles early and the real uncertainty over him and the ups and the downs until he finally caught fire. But once he did, and I really do go back to that Jacksonville, that 99-yarder, I think that's – at that point, it was still very much like, okay, he's talented and he's frustrating, and Chris Mortensen just reported John Robinson was looking to trade him and all these things. Yep. And then that play, which was, to me, Tony Dorsett had the other 99-yard run, and if anybody's seen the replay of that, it's a 99-yard touchdown run. But, it's like loaded box, and he gets out of it, and he kind of just there's one guy down the sideline, he just outruns him. I mean, Derrick Henry had to, it was like Tecmo Bowl where you just, blow guys, you have to throw them aside,
yep.
But that play from then on, I mean, I think he had one of the most amazing runs. I mean, the NFL, from there, really until he got hurt in 21. So 3 years later, a 3-year run of being, I think a top 5, you could argue, NFL player. And some people would say, no, the top 12 are all quarterbacks or whatever. But I would make that case. And so what does that mean to the Titans? Like we were talking about yesterday, I mean, I think it's top 3 is, I think, very clear, I think.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, are we underrating like a Keith Bulluck, Are we underrating – obviously Chris Johnson had an incredible season, but it's not the same thing.
No.
Javon Kearse was amazing. There were a lot of great players. Like someone yesterday was like, that kind of tells you the state of the franchise, the fact that, Derrick Henry is right there with McNair and Eddie George and there's nothing in between. And that's true, but there wasn't nothing in between. It's just those are the top guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you make a case he's as popular as anybody who's played for this team.
It was interesting
right there
to get Kuharski's thoughts on the Henry McNair side of things yesterday, just in terms of McNair was a great player. Obviously, he won a league MVP, so it's a different discussion from Henry, and some of that's based on the position that he played. But I mean, if you look at McNair's number, and we talked about this, when Tannehill was on his run, right? Of if you go back and look at McNair's numbers, they're not necessarily gonna blow you away. And some of that is it was a different era of football, and they just didn't throw it as much. At least the Titans didn't throw it as much back then. And some of that was, I think McNair, it took a while for him to grow into kind of that guy where he was throwing it around. And by the end of his Titans career into his Baltimore career, he was that guy, throwing the ball around all over the place. But it wasn't always that way. So it was kind of it's a different thing because you do go back and look at some of the box scores, and it's like, oh, the Titans won 17-14, and McNair threw 12 passes for 96 yards, had a touchdown, had 30 yards rushing, and Eddie George carried the ball 38 times for 102 yards, and they won. Like, that's a lot of what that era kind of was at times. So, the McNair, Eddie, Derek discussion, I think some of that's in the eye of the beholder and just who you loved the most if you're a Titans fan. But I think you can make the case that Derek is the best player since they switched over to being the Tennessee Titans. I would still go with McNair, but I think it's close.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, McNair, it was about much more than the numbers.
Yeah.
And Derek has ridiculous numbers, but it's about much more than numbers with him too, right? With McNair, it's the toughness, clutch plays. You could have a 127-yard passing game, but you made that one throw, or you couldn't practice because you're sternum all week, but then all of a sudden you're taking hits on a Sunday. And so with Derek, it's like, I don't remember how long the run was where he threw Josh Norman around like a rag doll, but I know I saw it,
It was like 6 yards, I think. Yeah. It's crazy.
But, so, it's like when you have these memorable moments, and I think toughness is a big part of it with anybody, right? Like how many beloved NFL players was like toughness not part of the story? I mean, there's some, but that's typically tied into this. And obviously Derrick Henry, just the physicality, the pounding he's taken, the punishment he's taken and delivered, all that stuff's part of it.
Well, it's the different moments too, right? Like from Henry's perspective, the 99-yard run, the stiff arms that we've seen, both the Norman one, he had one in the Lions game at home a few years ago too, which was just outrageous. I mean, he's had some highlight reel moments that way, but it's, the New England game in the playoffs where he was great, Baltimore in the playoffs on the road where he was great. For McNair, I've thought about this before, like if McNair and the Titans finish off that last drive and they tie it up against the Rams in the Super Bowl and they go on to win, like just think about that last drive, leading them down the field. He's got Kevin Carter like draped all over him. He escapes from it, makes the dart, 30 yards down the field that way to Dyson, and they end up being 1 yard short. But if they finish that off, like we'd be talking about that last drive and what he did on that drive forever. And it's just, Derrick Henry never had.
We still do talk about that.
Exactly. Yeah. But like Derrick Henry never had. It's not like he ever carried them to like an AFC Championship or Super Bowl appearance. But I mean, some of the moments that he had, like when you go back and look at highlight tapes of NFL running backs, and they start doing like they do on the NFL Network sometimes, like just these all-time running back specials. 20 years from now, you're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry on that tape.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously the run he had. They go to New England. They end Tom Brady in New England.
Yep.
Derrick Henry dominated that game. They go. Right now, I'm hearing a lot. There's a lot of talk out of Baltimore this week because now they're the 1 seed. About we remember, well, it was Derrick Henry who destroyed that. Derrick Henry went into Baltimore on a Saturday night. Lamar Jackson MVP, Baltimore Ravens number 1 seed, and he ran all over him. And then, well, he was doing it to the Chiefs in the first half of the AFC Championship game, and to their credit, they stopped him. And so the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl instead of the Titans. I still think that one of the best moments for Derrick Henry, and you could actually say, I may write this actually, but I think you could argue that the peak of this era was when he came out of the tunnel before the Bengals game, because it was like at that moment they're the 1 seed, beat the little Bengals, and you got the Chiefs or Bills coming into and they're going to have to come into this place.
Yeah.
The place is totally up in arms. He's just the fact that he's able to suit up again and play, like that was the moment where like, wow, this is it. And then the first play of that game, it started going the wrong way.
It did.
And it's kind of gone the wrong way since. Not for him necessarily. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he had a 1,500-yard season last year.
Yeah.
You know? But for them, and he was part – he more than anyone, lifted them to that summit.
Well, that's part of like the decision the Titans have coming up with him. And I mean, to be fair, the decision that he has with the Titans is also like he's going to end up, let's say he has a big game on Sunday and he ends up with like 1,100 yards this year or close to it. Part of me in my mind is always going to think about like, okay, well, what could he have done this year if you put a competent line around him?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is. I think it's clear that he has regressed and he's not, peak Derrick Henry that he was. But I think part of the question you got to ask yourselves if you're the Titans is, well, how good do we think he still is? Because if you fix the offensive line, can he still be a 1,400-yard back? Because if he can be a 1,400-yard back, there's a lot of value in bringing that back to me if you're the Titans.
Yeah. Then it gets into if he does come back, do you want him to have enough work to be a 1,400-yard back? And if you don't, there's just so many. If you don't, then what's the value, Like Tim says, Henry's my favorite Titan of all time, and I was at the Liberty Bowl. He may not be the same, but with a line, it could create a hole, still a top running back. I hope he's here next year, but with Rand already trying to trade him last offseason, I know that's a dream scenario. But I will say this, Tim. Making inquiries on that is not the same as, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying to trade. It was incumbent on Rand or any GM coming in here to find out about Derrick Henry and the interest and find out about Ryan Tannehill and the interest, right? Because it wasn't a sure thing that the Titans were going to go for it one more time. And as it turns out, it was, it was a failed idea.
Yeah.
They didn't come close. But I wouldn't look at that and then say for sure, okay, well, then there's no way he's back. Now, Titans could have tried to extend him this year. I didn't hear anything about that happening. So, but I wouldn't rule it out. He has to see what's out there. And if something good's out there, in terms of pay, in terms of team, opportunity, all that, then he should go. But I could still see it coming back to a conversation with these two.
What do you make of what could be potentially Derrick Henry's final game as a member of the Tennessee Titans coming up on Sunday? Should it be Derrick Henry's final game? We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025, our phone number. This is Robbie and Rex Road, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in. Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, live from our 102.5 The Game studios, brought to you by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. Visit springhillac.com. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. We'll have Predators head coach Andrew Brunette going to appear in about 10 minutes or so at 7:30, joining us. Preds in action tonight, taking on the Calgary Flames, discussing what could be Derrick Henry's final game as a member of the Titans coming up on Sunday. We'll see what happens on that front. Taking your thoughts on that. Should it be Derrick Henry's final game? Would you like to see the Titans re-sign Derrick Henry? I am, from the money perspective of what he could command, and this is going to be a big talking point all offseason, obviously, so we don't have to get a ton into it today, but it is going to be interesting to see how much interest is out there for Derrick Henry. And, are the Titans, if you're Carthon and Vrabel, obviously Vrabel's been around him much longer than Carthon has. But as you look at the whole equation, he'll be 30 years old. His birthday's coming up, isn't it? I want to say it's
yeah, he's not 30 yet.
It's his birthday today.
Is that right?
Happy birthday, Derrick.
Well, there you go.
He's 30 years old today.
What could be his last pre-game meeting with the press.
Yeah.
Well, Teresa,
happy birthday to him.
Teresa, you better offer up a happy birthday to him. So he's 30. Wow.
He's 30 years old today. So there's the whole conversation about, running backs and 30 years old. And then if you're the Titans, you have to factor in okay, well, I see that. How much different is this guy who, outside of one injury, has been pretty healthy in his NFL career and is just built like a different human being? We talked about that yesterday with Kuharski. Is there a scenario where the Titans would bring him back? Or, is it possible that the Titans just are dead set on moving on? That's also a possibility when you start to look at Derrick Henry and the way that they want their offense to function as they move forward here. It is possible that Vrabel and Carthon and Tim Kelly and everybody just says, you know what, we love Derrick Henry. He's a franchise icon, but it's time to move on. Very well could be how things go.
Yeah. If that wasn't a really strong possibility, then I would imagine they would have offered an extension, right? So, yeah, it's the most likely scenario is that this is Derrick Henry's last week, and Sunday is his last game with the Titans. I'm not convinced it's 100% because I just don't know. Don't know what he's going to find out there. And on the Titans side of things, like you said, maybe it's already a non-discussion. It's just a different kind of back trying to pair with Tyjae Spears. And, look, I've said earlier this week, there are always good running backs who are coming out of college who you don't have to – Tyjae Spears is a good player. They got him in the third round.
Yep.
So, like I've mentioned this week, Blake Corum, there's a guy who I think is he reminds me of Kyron Williams, who has been fantastic for the Rams out of Notre Dame. So it may just be it's time to get a rookie who doesn't cost a lot of money, and it's maybe a little bit different style of player than what Derrick is. How does Tim Kelly feel about that? How does he envision his offense functioning? Either with Derrick Henry or with a very different kind of back. You're not going to find you're not going to find the same. You can find a quote unquote power back.
Yeah.
You can find a physical back, and that may be the best pairing with Tyjae Spears. I think they've been a nice complement to each other. But you're not going to find Derrick Henry.
I'm looking at his career numbers. It's amazing to think about what he's done in this division against those opponents. He's averaging 89.5 yards per game on the ground against Indy. He's averaging 102.2 against Houston and 100.8 against Jacksonville. And when you think about in the last two times he's seen Houston, he had 9 yards rushing earlier this year, and 42 or whatever he had the other day. For that average still being at 102.2, just kind of shows you what he's done to the Texans and what he's done to the Jaguars throughout his Titans career. It's pretty incredible.
Oh, yeah. No, especially the Texans. That the fact that he could have these 2 games this year and that still be the average. I forget what it was, but it was obviously big before that. Here's an alternative viewpoint from Chris in Nashville.
Okay.
Derrick Henry's awesome, but he owes Ryan Tannehill a huge thanks. Tannehill's a quicker, more accurate thrower than Mariota, That opened the door for Henry to be great. Now, first of all, there's some people who are going to jump all over you, Chris. I'm not going to jump all over you because I think it's been too much of Tannehill was no good and Derek just carried him. But I would say that, let's remember that Henry, his big emergence, which was late in the 2018 season. I mean, the last 4 games of that season, starting with a 99-yarder, he went nuts, got himself to 1,000 kind of out of nowhere. That was with Mariota as quarterback. And once they figured out the offensive line crap in 2019, although it was also Tannehill, then he had a great year. He had some big games with Mariota at QB. He obviously had the monster playoff game after the end of the 2017 season with Mariota at QB. So I wouldn't say chicken and egg. I wouldn't say Tannehill made it possible for Henry, but it was a great partnership.
Yeah, I mean, it was for whatever reason, and the offensive line coming together was a big part of it. Obviously Tannehill was a better quarterback than Mariota was. But the offense and even Henry's production in the offense opened up in 2019 once Tannehill took over as quarterback. Now also Lewan was coming back and they were getting settled in and all those things. But I'm with you. Like the end of the 18 season, it's amazing to think about. There was a point where David Fluellen was an option over Derrick Henry. Like they wanted to play David Fluellen over Derrick Henry.
He was the third back in that. They blew out the Patriots 34-10. And Derrick Henry had fallen out of favor to the point of being the third back. And I believe that's the week that Chris Mortensen reported that John Robinson was looking around in terms of moving him. So, and David Fluellen tore up his knee early in that game. Derrick Henry he had a touchdown in that game, but look, he has been consistent with it. He puts it on himself for that stuff. I mean, he had a lot of stuff to figure out, Yeah. And the offense is very different, too. The exotic smash mouth that he played the first 2 years, which, again, he's DeMarco Murray's backup anyway, but there wasn't a lot of zone stuff in that playbook. And then all of a sudden you go to the wide zone offense of, that LaFleur, that your guy LaFleur brings in. Mm-hmm. And it took him some time, and he admitted it.
No question.
Some people don't want to hear what he says, but that's what he said because, he's being honest.
Coming up next, we'll be joined by Predators head coach Andrew Brunette. You're listening to Robbie and Rexroad, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in. Robbie and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. Preds back in action tonight, taking on the Calgary Flames at Bridgestone Arena. To help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Predators head coach Andrew Brunette. Andrew, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, fellas. Doing good.
Awesome. Happy New Year to you. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, Andrew, you were talking the other night after the game about Nyquist, and you've used the term cerebral player with him many times. I just want to dig in a little bit deeper on that. When you say cerebral player, what exactly are you seeing from Nyquist when he's out there, and what do you think separates him in that category?
Well, I think it's just, I guess you could say it's kind of his instincts of how the game's played. He has tremendous poise with the puck. He kind of knows what's going on, or he anticipates so well, kind of knows what's going on before it happens. He's in spots before the puck gets there. You know, you could say the all-time greatest probably cerebral player would be Gretzky kind of thing. And I'm not saying he's Gretzky, but he has some of those attributes that he's able to think his way through the game. He darts his way through the game. He's got tremendous poise and is aware where everybody kind of is on the ice. And, you know, to boot, I think he's a great leader. I mean, he's been really good with the young guys. He's the type of player that probably every guy in the team wants to play with him because he's unselfish. He does the right things. And he's obviously fun to play with because he kind of gets to the puck in all those different areas.
So before you got these guys on the ice, Andrew, did you in your mind envision that maybe that these three guys could potentially have the kind of chemistry together that they obviously do have?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the summer it was kind of crossed my mind. I thought it would probably work when you're looking at different combinations and who would play well with who. And obviously seeing Gus play as much as I've had over the years, I kind of knew what he could bring. And obviously with Factor, his hockey sense is off the charts. I guess with Phil would be the guy I wasn't sure exactly what would complement him. Looking over, you know, the years and seeing him play the different times, I think he's kind of played pretty well with everybody. So I wasn't sure if there was any, you know, rhyme or reason why he had a little chemistry with different guys. So I thought it would be a good mix. I think early on you're trying to spread out, you know, your veteran guys, your proven players to maybe help the younger guys and see if they can kind of help them develop a little chemistry or help them kind of teach them the game a little bit or how to grow offensively with different players. And, you know, kind of got to the point where I put them together. And if you would ask me, did I think it'd be as good as it has? I'd probably say no, but I thought definitely there'd be a chance.
Well, Andrew, with that point, you know, we're reaching, you know, the halfway point of the season here, and some of these younger guys specifically have never been through an 82-game grind like this. From your perspective, how are some of your younger players holding up and kind of handling that grind to this point?
Well, I think they're doing okay. I mean, I think exactly. I think I'm well aware. I think they're probably on path that this was going to be hard. It wasn't going to be easy. An 80-game schedule. I think a lot of them came up with, 30 games, 40 games left in the year. They kind of got into a lineup that was full of injuries. Teams that maybe weren't taking them completely serious or didn't know who they were. Now they've kind of made a name for themselves, the Evangelistas and the Novaks, and teams are aware, and they're going to play them harder and more physical, and it'll wear you down. It'll grind you down a little bit, this league. That's why it's the best league in the world. And you have to understand and find as a young player that you're having to go through this because it'll make you better. You know, you got to kind of go through the muck here. It'll make you better going forward as a player. But then also you got to understand a little bit when your game's slipping and not just from what the coach is saying, interpersonally, if you understand where your game's at, you're able to correct it or try to correct it or do things to help correct it. So I think we're on track of what we expected. You always, as a coach, want a little more of them. And then basically the message is being just understanding where we are. You don't want to lose your game right now because once February comes, you won't be able to find it. So we're trying to get them to find their game right now.
Talking to Preds coach Andrew Brunette. Well, speaking of young players, obviously a situation where you needed to call up Yaroslav Askarov. You get a big couple points in Washington, and I got to think just a thrill for him, kind of an unexpected thrill here early in his career. What did you see from him? What kind of energy does he bring to a room?
Well, yeah, I wasn't really familiar with him, and obviously Didn't see him last year at all. Saw him in camp a little bit. Camp was kind of chaotic, and I think he only played a period maybe or a couple periods, and didn't get a really feel for him. I got a little. Even saw him last week for a period, and then to see him in Washington. I actually saw him in practice the next day, and I was like, well, okay, now I get it. Now I see it. I thought he competed. His athleticism is off the charts. So I was excited. I was excited to see him play in Washington, and he lived up to the expectations. He brings, I guess, the energy. I think he plays the puck so well. I think, and he handles it so well, and his athleticism, again, is off the charts. So I thought he was really good. For him, what an opportunity. What a dream come true, I think, in a lot of different senses, where you're going against Ovechkin in a penalty shot to win the game, or a shootout to win the game. I mean, I don't know, if you could draw it up any differently. I guess, in my generation, be like kind of going against Gretzky one-on-one or something, So I think for him, what a thrill. And I was so happy we were able to put him in that position and for him to succeed, because I think it bodes well for the organization moving forward.
So, Andrew, obviously a good performance from Saros the other night. He gets the shutout against Chicago. And you were talking after the game about, learning more about him and kind of being able to tell by his movement when he's dialed in. What has that process been like? Kind of take us behind the scenes as a coach, trying to learn the personalities and what makes each guy tick in a locker room that has got a bunch of different people and I would assume players with a bunch of different personalities and needs.
I mean, that's the greatest challenge of coaching, I think, is trying to get to your players and building relationships and understanding and seeing, like you said, what makes them tick, what doesn't. Again, I was talking about forwards, what gives them chemistry, what doesn't. And with a goalie, it's a little different. I never really played the position. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. But you try to get to know the person a little bit, and then as you're watching, you understand and see kind of what his game is. We put him in a little bit of uncomfortable position in a lot of different ways, and the way that we've kind of played a little bit different defensively, trying to push the pace a little bit offensively is going to leave us a little bit vulnerable at times, especially at the start of the year, and that puts a big strain on goaltending when they're not overly used to it. I remember in Florida with Bobrovsky, it was very similar, where he's coming from Columbus where he's getting 50 shots a game, and he came into Florida, and we'd have the puck for the first period, and then we'd have a breakdown, be a 2-on-1, and be in the net. And so for a goaltender, that's probably the worst possible thing to happen. And it took an adjustment period for him. And I think with Juice at times, take the Detroit game, for example, where, we last Friday where we, shooting them out, playing them, I think it was 15-2 or 15, so he's not really in the game. And then we take a kind of a careless penalty, and we give up about 10 or 11 shot attempts in one penalty kill. And I'm sure, talking to Juice, I'm sure it's just like, it's chaos, right? I mean, it's shrapnel everywhere, and you're going, what just happened? So you're kind of not overly in the game, and that happens. So I think there's a little bit of a, growing and uncomfortable position for him and for our group. And I think a little bit, again, the way we play, the way we defend, it was a little bit different than the past. And I think for him and for us, we're just trying to get used to each other. And I think he's rebounded really well. I don't think it's taken him too much time, but you can see a little bit of level of being uncomfortable early.
You talked about wanting to be better at home. Obviously, big win over at Chicago. You got Calgary now coming in, but obviously you guys have been very good lately on the road. I guess as a coach, would you rather try to fix the home thing than the road thing? If your team's able to travel, stick together, and win those games, you figure you can kind of get it going in your own building, especially with the atmosphere that you have in there?
Yeah, I mean, we want it all.
Right.
It seems you fix one, you don't get the other one breaks. I think for me, and I've kind of stayed this almost all year, I think home ice is crucial, and being a good team, being a playoff team, being a contending team. Because no matter how well you play at the road, there's all kinds of circumstances. You can't, you're not, momentum changes are on the road, and that's just normal. So for me, it's so hard to win on the road. And it is at home, obviously hard to win any time in this league, obviously. But I think if you can, have an identity at home and understand this is a hard place to play, and we're going to come at you in waves, and we're going to have the puck, and we're going to make you defend, and just having that aura a little bit is kind of what I'm trying to ingrain and instill in this culture, in this team, that, it's a different animal when you're at home. And we're able to do it. I find for 20 minutes, and then we lose a little bit of our our momentum. When we give free momentum up and we're having trouble either closing teams out or putting teams away, the Dallas game before Christmas, and we leave ourselves hanging late in games. And then now you're playing a 50-50 game of chance. And chance is going to go either way. So I'd like to see us play a little better at home. I mean, I like our effort. To me, it's a little bit of that consistency and a little bit of that mindset. To me, we feel content playing 20 minutes at home or 32 minutes at home or 48 minutes at home, where I'd like us to really dictate the pace and make it a hard place to play for 60 minutes.
Well, Andrew, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Thanks. Have a good day.
You as well. Predators head coach Andrew Brunette, our guest on Robbie and Rexroad. Preds in action tonight at home, taking on the Calgary Flames. We'll have Preds Pick to Click coming up later in the competition, which is no longer a competition from my standpoint, but Rexroad and everybody else continue to put up points. So good for y'all.
It's a competition for you to avoid getting beat up by the guy you picked to score and then guarantee he won't score.
There could be some truth to that. Coming up next, it's time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexroad. You can check it out every morning at 7:45. We will do that next. This is Robbie and Rexroad, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hey, Robbie Stanley here. The NFL regular season wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a first $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Tampa Bay and Carolina coming up this week. Tampa Bay a 4.5-point favorite. I feel pretty good about the Bucs. Give me the Bucs minus 4.5, but you can take it any way you want to take it. Just make sure you do it on FanDuel. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet. Live same-game parlay options, your traditional bets like the point spread and money line as well. You take it any way you want to take it. Just visit FanDuel.com/Rob and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robbie and Rex Road.
Oh, this is so frustrating.
He's kind of ugly, though.
It is time for the Rex Rant. You can check it out every morning at 7:45 here on the program. Joe Rex Road's rant of the day. Joseph, have at it, my friend.
Nick always tries to get, he wants to know what my rant's going to be like, and then so he can set up like an intro. No, I'm not talking about the Titans today, buddy. Sorry, I threw a curveball at you.
Guess wrong.
Also, sorry that we didn't ask your question to Andrew
Nick's
Burnett.
tossing questions out.
Yeah, that you put up on the board there. I didn't even notice it.
He's like, these two are morons. Let's get in here and throw a question out that way.
Yeah, we should have made the whole thing about Cody Glass.
We should have.
Yeah. You can always jump in, man. You can jump in and say, that's happened before.
It's like, enough. These guys have talked long enough.
Hi, Andrew. I'd like to ask you a question. I'm going to be quick today. College football, and we can take it wherever we want from there. Actually, there's another college football thing that we've been talking about in the text on that I think might be interesting to bring up. But
okay.
I just want to be real quick today and say this rant is against me. I screwed up.
Okay.
I want my Heisman vote back. I screwed up. I reject that the Heisman voting should take place after the playoff. I reject that. It's fine timing-wise how it is. I hate people who vote for the Heisman, as we've discussed, who vote before all the information is in, and some people did. And so if you voted for Jaden Daniels and you didn't wait to see Michael Penix play against Oregon and beat Oregon and look great doing it, well, shame on you. But you know what? I did wait. And I still voted for Jaden Daniels, and I screwed up. I screwed up because it doesn't always have to be this way. Like Ndamukong Suh didn't have one moment. That Nebraska team wasn't special. I think they went like 9-3. He did blow up Texas in the old Big 12 championship game, but he didn't have a quote-unquote Heisman moment. Everybody doesn't have a quote-unquote Heisman moment. But you know what? Michael Penix did have Heisman moments. He played in huge games all year for an undefeated team that's about to play for a national championship, and Jaden Daniels had no Heisman moments. And so the numbers were great. He was amazing. Caroline Fenton kind of talked me into it. I'm not ranting about Caroline. It's my fault.
Caroline, call back in.
But the bottom line is he had a huge game, and he looked and they got crushed by Florida State. And he looked incredible in other games, but they just had an season. I know Brian Kelly just fired their D coordinator and about 3 other assistants yesterday. You're no longer part of the family. But I think that at least, if not a quote-unquote Heisman moment, I think that someone contributing to greatness as a team should be something that is taken into consideration. And I mentioned that. Even though I voted for Jaden Daniels, well, I screwed up. I should have voted for Penix. And I'm sorry. Take my vote. I keep begging for someone to take my vote.
Somebody please take my vote. Take my Heisman vote. Well, they're just going to, this time next year, there'll be 4,200 people voting on the Heisman. We'll never get to the end of it.
Is that right?
Keep expanding.
Are they increasing the pool?
Not.
Yeah. Yeah, like 900 now, which is,
Jaden Daniels pretty darn good this year.
No.
I wouldn't feel bad about it if I was you.
Of course. It's not like he's an undeserving winner or whatever. I just wish that I would have put more stock into undefeated team, especially I thought Oregon was going to smoke Washington. So I think a lot of people thought that too. And then to see what they did instead, I should have put more stock into that.
It's been a big week for Tennessee fans on the Penix front. He was committed to Tennessee. Michael Penix Jr. was committed to Tennessee, and then Jeremy Pruitt apparently didn't want him.
Michael, I don't.
Michael, we like to throw the ball and run the ball here.
There you go.
We like to do both. We don't want you to play quarterback here in Tennessee. We got Garantano. We don't need you.
Yeah. Good call.
Good call by Jeremy.
Yeah. Well,
it's worked out okay for Tennessee because they did have Hendon Hooker, and now they got Nico. So it's probably going to end up being fine. But it's been a tough one. Watch Michael Penix go. He was in Indiana. And he was good at Indiana.
He was.
He kept getting hurt at Indiana because they couldn't block for him. And then he goes to Washington, and he's just lit it up. Been a tough one for Vols fans to watch that happen.
His performance against Texas was like
It's outrageous.
Yeah, if he throws it like that, well, he might just win a natty Monday.
Are you surprised? And it's starting to pick up some steam now. But I was looking at like a mock draft last week because I was just trying to get like a gauge on what the view of the quarterbacks is. And I can't even remember which one I was looking at, but it had him at like the very bottom of the first round. I was like, he looks pretty good out there, man. Like I wonder. There's always some quarterback that gets a lot of momentum come draft time. Like last year it was Richardson, and he got a ton of momentum. He got drafted 4th overall. There's always somebody, for the most part, that just surges up the draft boards. And I don't know whether or not it's going to be him, but if he goes out there and he wins a national championship and he looks the way he did against Texas, I mean, I think you got to pay attention to that if you're NFL teams, right?
You do. You see this bump. I think you see it in hoops quite a bit, where someone makes a run in the NCAA tournament. I mean, like think about Shabazz Napier, right?
Oh yeah.
Fine. And then LeBron's like, I want that guy on my team. And
I think he left the team, and the team drafted him anyway. It's great. As a Miami Heat fan, loved it.
Yeah, I'm sure. But there's an example of if UConn doesn't make a run out of nowhere as a 7 seed to win it all, it doesn't happen.
Yep.
So, yes, if he wins a championship, does that give him a bump? Yes. Now, Richardson goes to the top of the charts because he's the most athletic guy to ever be in Indy and all that stuff.
Right.
And Penix is not that. But, hey, man, when you can spin it like he can spin it, I think he's going to go somewhere in the first round. Usually those guys move up as the draft approaches.
I mean, the top two are clear. We've been talking about those two guys all year in Williams and May. When you look beyond that, like I think I would take Penix before I would take J.J. McCarthy. That's just me.
Yeah, I would too.
And there are some people that think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a top 10 pick.
I mean, J.J. McCarthy's a lot more athletic, and he's got the tools. But, yeah, I mean, Penix, the accuracy and just the anticipation and all that's the most important stuff. Quick reads, reading the defense, making accurate throws over and over again. There's nothing more important. So, like Mark from National City said he should be the number 1 pick. Well, he's not going to be the number 1 pick. Caleb Williams, Drake May are going to go before him. But I agree with you. I would take him over J.J. McCarthy. And
what about Jaden Daniels?
I know this is turning into Jaden Daniels hate segment. I might take him before Jaden Daniels. I love Jaden Daniels. He's amazing. But, yeah.
Bo Nix? You take him before Bo Nix?
Yes. I like Bo Nix, and he could sneak into the first round too. I think Nix and McCarthy probably
But what we're talking about is good news again for the Titans, right? Because if they end up at number 7 or whatever it is, there's a lot of quarterbacks that could be taken high or somebody moving up to take one of those quarterbacks. Like there's a lot of quarterbacks in play right now today as we sit here on January 4th in the draft. Now the thing is, like the draft board and all that stuff is going to change so much between now and April. There's almost no point in talking about it, but should be good news for the Titans with all these quarterbacks.
Yeah, and like you said, that's where it happens a lot. As a team loves this guy or that guy, moves up to get that quarterback. And sometimes they fall unexpectedly, like Will Levis did last year or 2 years ago. It was like, oh, actually, apparently these quarterbacks do stink as much as everybody says they do. So. But, yeah, it is good news for the Titans that there's so many guys who could go high and they could end up with a really good non-QB.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans and all things NFL. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight for Vanderbilt women's basketball. Commodores will be on the road taking on Mississippi State. Tip-off at 6:30, pregame beginning at 6:15. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 94.9thefan.com. This is Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rex Road, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. And as we do every Thursday, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. Charles, Happy New Year. Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Happy New Year to you guys. I'm sure there's nothing to talk about today, so let's keep this a short one.
Nothing going on this time of year. It's all good. Charles, I do want to start on the Titans front. So we've been discussing this all week. Obviously, storylines for this team right now in terms of what's left to play for is basically zero. Right. It is the potential of Derrick Henry's last game in a Titan uniform coming up on Sunday, and we'll see what the market for him ends up looking like this offseason. But just from your view of watching Derrick Henry, if this is it for him in a Titans jersey, how do you put into words what he's meant to this team, this franchise, and really to the NFL at large?
Oh, I mean, I think it's massive, and just in terms of he's a different kind of back than we've seen over the course of history, just in terms of his physicality. I mean, look, you can compare some guys to him. There's no question about that, but it's definitely rare in this era to see a player who builds into the second half of games. When I'm talking about the height, although, look, the guy ran for 1,000 yards this year, which is a stunner to me when you consider the punishment everyone has taken behind that offensive line. I thought this was a season where I'm like, really, what's Henry got left in the tank? And there was more than I thought. And given the surrounding talent, I would say this is probably one of his tougher seasons where you've looked at him and been really, really impressed with what he's been able to endure this year. And like you said, we'll see what his market is. I'm like, maybe he does have, some tread left there for the right team, built the right way that, doesn't have to put 300 carries on him. What's interesting to me, though, when I think about him is, I don't know if people remember, there was a time where there was like a question whether he could do it. And the trade deadline prior to his first big breakout season, he was available.
Yeah.
Like, I remember talking to teams, and they were like, they're not shopping Henry, but like they're definitely listening. And like, if you offer them like a second-round pick, you can go get him right now. And no one was willing to do it.
And that was 2018, right? The 2018 season.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I remember I talked to somebody in the organization before the next season started, and there was certainly a question internally amongst some people about like, he's big, he's physical, he's very upright, like, can he last the way that he runs? And I think there was a question about whether he could ever legitimately be a star back with the way that he played. And then obviously that was all erased. It was funny because the assessment I got, and this just shows you, like, I hate to even admit this, but the assessment I got was like, Mariota's going to have this, monster season. It's finally like falling into place for him. But geez, Derrick Henry, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's really going to turn out to be the player that we thought. And I'm having a brain freeze right here. The tight end at the time that ended up going to the Patriots.
You're talking about Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith?
Yeah, Jonnu. Yeah, I remember. And then that was the big, like, Jonnu's going to be the big breakout. Jonnu's going to be the superstar. And I'm like, years later, it's like, geez, man.
you just don't know.
Yeah, you got to take it with a grain of salt, the assessments that you hear. And every time I would see Henry have like a monster game, I'd always go back to being like, yeah, it's so funny that this was someone who was definitely questioned. And I think also beyond the fact that he produced this year, he also was not like, he was like a team guy. Like anything you'd hear is like, he doesn't want to go at the trade deadline. He's not like pushing to be dealt when other players, who are veterans at that stage in their career, they're kind of like, hey, I want to go and I want to win a title and, get me to a place where I need to be. And I never really felt like I heard that about Derrick Henry. And, very, very impressed. And, he should be considered one of the all-time greats, I think, in this franchise, regardless of how the rest of his career unfolds.
Well, we'll stick with the Titans. I'll ask you this on the air since you apparently don't answer my texts anymore.
Wow.
Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites. We trust this guy. He's talking about Vrabel, power play, wants out, et cetera, et cetera. It's add it to the mix of sort of that sort of narrative out there right now.
I don't know Chad personally, but I do know that people who I respect him. Some people that I follow him, and that's always, that always in my mind raises a flag. I'm like, okay, all right, some people that I think generally kind of know and understand the league and know some things are following this guy, and maybe I should know who this guy is. Like I said, I don't know him personally, but look, there's a lot of stuff out there right now on Mike Vrabel and obviously, Rand Carson. Let me ask you this though, because I struggled. I'm hoping you guys can answer this for me. So when he says, "Of course I want to be back," right? How is the question worded to him? Like I went through the whole transcript and then I pulled up the video I could find, and it was interesting to me. Number one, we didn't get to this until way down. I'm like, when are they going to get to this? Like I've been in those press conferences where you're like, I know the question I want to ask. I know I want that to be the first question, but we'll wait until number 17. We'll let it soften up a little bit before we get into this. How exactly was the question phrased to him? Because that to me, I want to know how he answered and what the question was that how it was put to him.
Well, he initially was asked about social media stuff about him and Rand.
Do you need to address with your team? I saw that.
And then he decided to start saying some things that you should never say if children may be seeing your press conference, which we will not repeat.
Ruined a lot of dreams, but go ahead.
Yeah. And then basically someone piped in, so you want to be here, right? It was Glennon said, so you want to be here. So it was just basically popped in and said, so you want to be here. Yeah.
All right. So that's an opinion question. So you want to be here. Like, what's your opinion on this situation? And he says, of course I want to be here. That's the wiggle room. All right. And that's kind of what drives me nuts at times, because I've done it in the past when I go back and I'll listen to, like, if I've had one-on-ones and stuff, and I'm like, why did I not ask it with a hard edge? The hard edge here for Mike Vrabel is, Mike, are you going to be the Tennessee Titans coach in 2024? Mike, are you going to be the Tennessee Titans coach in 2024? And how does he answer that question? Because that's a very straightforward question.
He's not in control of that either, though. I mean,
it doesn't. No, Mike, I'm asking you: Are you going to be the coach or not? And how he answers will inform everything. Because if it's anything but yes, then it means absolutely. There's a possibility dude's out. Okay, possibility he gets traded. Possibility he behind the scenes is not 100% happy about how he's viewing the future or whatever. Because for all coaches that are under contract for another 2 years, that answer is yes. Now, if he says, "Hey, you know what? That's not my choice." Okay, that once again, anything but yes means that there's a potential problem here, and it's harder for him to sidestep the aspect of there's a potential problem. If he says that's not my choice, then the follow-up question is, okay, Mike, well, you're saying that's not your choice, so that means there's a possibility you're not going to be the coach of this team next year, right? And then how does he answer that question? Like the questions where you're like, do you want to be here? What do you think of social media? That's all, I get it. I understand it, but you're working the edges there. And you give somebody an ability to finesse when you answer that question. I'm not trying to give this isn't me sitting here trying to judge journalism.
Journalism 101?
Yeah, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to say that, like, when I heard that answer, I'm like, nah, that question, there was some wiggle room there. Okay, it gave him an opportunity for a cutback. And when you just ask straight up, are you going to be here, Mike? And if he does not say yes, then it opens up a whole world of possibilities. Why aren't you saying yes? Like, geez, Mike, everybody seems to want you here, right? So why aren't you saying yes? Why is that not just an easy yes? You have 2 years left in your contract. And that, to me, that's what bothers me, because I think that was like, I remember when Sean Payton, it came down the stretch with Sean Payton in New Orleans. Every once in a while, someone would ask him a question with a little more hard edge on it, and he wasn't able to definitively say, of course I'm going to be here with the Saints, and that's when you're like, all right, yeah, there's something cooking. It feels like there's more going on than Sean wanted to say publicly. So I, again, like that's how I would put it to Vrabel. If he does not say yes, then you have a barrage of 5 or 6 questions after that where you're like, why are you not just saying yes, Mike? Because it's a yes answer when you're under contract for 2 years and you have the resume that you have. That is a yes answer for most coaches. And if it's not, let's get into why it's not.
We'll have more with Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports coming up next. You're listening to Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Continuing our conversation with Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. So, Charles, the last couple minutes of that Lions-Cowboys game, there's a whole lot going on. First off, you got Mike McCarthy deciding to throw the ball and leave like a minute left on the clock for unnecessary amount of time.
Minute 40.
Yeah,
minute 40.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, here's another 40 seconds, by the way. Here, let's just go ahead and we're going to keep throwing the ball at a time. We should definitely be running it. No problem.
That stuff going on with McCarthy. You had, obviously when they get down to the end zone, the debacle with the officiating and the reporting and non-reporting with the Lions there. And then after that, after the penalty is called, you have Dan Campbell apparently willing to go for 2 all the way back to his own 45-yard line, even after the penalty was called. A lot going on in the last couple minutes there. What was your take on all of it, particularly the officiating debacle that has been the story of the league the past week?
Well, so I was there for that, and it's funny because I'm sitting next to 2 fellow Spartans, like talking like heavy hitter Hall of Fame types, and
Gosselin
Gosselin and Jarrett Bell, the 3 of us were all
yes,
and so we're watching. And we're like, all right, man, they're going for 2. They announced 70's eligible over the PA, all this stuff, and then they throw to 68, and I literally turned to Jarrett and I go, did they announce the wrong guy? I'm like, did they just what just happened there? Did they just simply botch it on the announcement to the fans? Because Taylor Decker clearly was not who they said was eligible, and then we just there was a complete and total descent into chaos. And to me, I think it's hilarious. It's not hilarious. It's really messed up, but it's funny that this is coming off of Goodell's Super Bowl press conference last year, where he was like, officiating's at the highest level ever. It's everything's fine. It's great. We're great. And then you have a call that, or a misstep, a miscue by Brad Allen, the referee, where no matter what, one of those teams was getting screwed. And you're like, okay, so if you let it go, it means that you told the defense that the wrong player was eligible, and now Dallas, you clearly you lined your defense based on the information we gave you, so we're going to screw you. And now on the flip side of the coin, we announced the wrong person. We didn't hear who was supposed to be eligible, and so Detroit is the one that gets whacked on it. And then I love that the follow up to this is they sent out this super passive aggressive video that's like, players, you better make sure that we know who's checking in. This is completely on them. And afterward, Brad Allen, the pool report, we're in each locker room, we're kind of going back and forth, and everybody's like, you seen the pool report? What's the pool report? What was the response for this? Basically, he just said the Lions lied. He's like, here's what happened. They told me X, and then they lined up in a way that suggested Y. But they told me X, so they're wrong. Just straight up made this up. I'm like, man, this is messed up. They clearly screwed this up. They clearly are not allowed to say we screwed it up because it gave the Cowboys a win that affected seeding. It's going to affect potentially where playoff games take place. It affected both teams. And oh, by the way, the 49ers got the number 1 seed because of the loss. And it was like a multitude of things, and it's a horror show for the NFL. But I can see people complaining that the Lions got cute. You send multiple linemen at a referee in a situation like that. You're trying to get the defense to go, what's going on? How come there's all these guys there? Maybe somebody's not paying attention. They don't listen to the ref when he comes and says, here's who's eligible. And then right before the snap, they're panicking because they're like, oh man, I didn't pay attention. Is there somebody eligible here who's not supposed to be, or who is, and I don't know who it is. And now you've screwed up, and they're scoring the game winning 2-point conversion. But that's the gamesmanship of it. But the Lions they tricked the ref. I don't think he did it on purpose, but they tricked the ref instead of tricking the Dallas Cowboys. And there's the consequence of it. The epilogue to this is Detroit got 2 more shots at that 2-point conversion. They went for it both times. They didn't convert either time. And it's so you live by it, you die by it. The officiating stinks in that situation. Two interesting things I learned. Okay, number one, I didn't realize how commonplace it was for coaches to have meetings with the officiating crew pregame to go, hey, here's a play that we might run. Here's exactly how we want to do it. Or, and I've heard, sometimes they're very specific. Sometimes they're not so specific because of trust issues that all head coaches seem to have with every person on the planet. And then secondly, though, I didn't know this, and Jory Epstein, my fellow national reporter, she told me that referees aren't always in that meeting, and which Brad Allen obviously is a referee for the Crew, which shocks me. If you're going to have that meeting with a staff before a game, and they're going to tell you, here are the special plays we're going to run, particularly as it pertains to eligibility issues, should the referee not be in that meeting? Like, how do you not have the full Crew in for that meeting? That blows my mind that there's not just a full accounting for every official in the Crew, because then, if you're handing off, here's what we're going to do, and then someone's got to go to the referee and go, okay, well, here's everything that was laid out, here's the notes, whatever. Maybe you lose something in transition, and that clearly is what, I think Dan Campbell is most upset about, is that he felt like he met with them before, he told them what he was going to do, they did it, and then they didn't call it the way that even Campbell beforehand had told them, here's precisely what we're aiming to do.
So I just, accountability here to me has got to be part of the answer. I mean, I do have, Charles, I have sympathy. It's on a lot of mistakes that officials make. They're human beings. They're always going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Just, like the pool report situation here, it is so, as you know, it's so locked down. It's so, okay, get your questions. I'm not saying that we need to have a head Crew chief full-on press conference after every game, but why can't we have more accountability, more back and forth, and just questions and answers at least? And also, why can't the NFL be more transparent about what they are doing to punish Crews?
Right. Well, that's exactly. I think, as you said, they're human beings, and we all watch the game frame by frame now. And not only do we watch it frame by frame, every network then immediately has some ex-official who's got a ton of experience who hops in and immediately says, here's how they screwed this up.
Or, immediately makes excuses for them usually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. There's certainly an element of that, and then there's, but then there's also the flip side of you will get officials who'll be like very critical of a situation. It's a much different environment than it used to be, and so I'm fine for an element of grace. However, I am also with you that what bothers me about this is there is no real transparency. The league, I think that particularly given that the league is now embracing revenue that's adjacent to the game in terms of like gambling, like it's not, it's gambling adjacent revenue that they're now opening these streams for. I think you should then have, okay, here's how we grade it out, each Crew, every single game. We should know what officials, what grades they're going to get, why, what went into those grades, what calls were missed. And I also think that beyond that transparency, when it is a situation like this, there should be more than one pool reporter who's allowed access to that official to ask a question. And it bothers me that there's not that level of transparency. Now, why do they do it? I get why they do it, because they don't want this to become more of a focal issue than it already is. I think who knows what can happen in exchanges with reporters. Officials aren't used to that kind of environment. We've seen press conferences with coaches, GMs, players all the time where they end up saying something that, is really, really not in their best interest, and they open a can of worms. That can happen with officials, and the league does not. They don't want any part of that whatsoever. To me, I think it's just the transparency and the fact that I want to see these guys graded out week to week. I want to know why, some of them might be demoted, as, I think Adam Schefter reported that Brad Allen and some guys on that Crew, guys and gals in officiating, obviously, but some people on that Crew won't necessarily be calling postseason games or, which is an element of a demotion. I would like to know more of what the actual data is behind that, and we don't get that, and I think that's part of the frustration. So.
Yep, it's really interesting stuff. Charles, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate it so much.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Wait, before we go, I want to know, what's the Rexroad rant? I want to ask you guys this. I always forget to ask.
What was my Rex rant?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the Rex rant?
I yelled at myself for voting for Jaden Daniels for the Heisman after watching Penix the other night. I'm like, dang it, I screwed up, man. Go with the guy who contributes to team greatness,
No, not that Penix hasn't had more than one game, but let's see. I mean, I'm not a Penix doubter, but let's see how he plays against the Michigan defense, which is going to be better in Texas. And it's funny because I'm doing a story on Penix versus like J.J. McCarthy for QB4 in the draft, like kind of how this could play into it. And it's
Penix is
these
better.
two guys you definitely have, when you talk to like personnel opinions, when you dive into personnel opinions, they both have like doubters, like people who do not like J.J. McCarthy, others who look at Penix as medical and they're like 4 season-ending injuries, two ACL tears, an AC joint, like a clavicle sternum injury. We're not even. He's going to be subboard. He's not even going to be on our board, and we wouldn't touch him until the value wipes away all that risk. So they're like 3rd round.
That's not happening.
No, I don't. I mean, like look at the teams. There are so many teams beyond the very top of the draft. There are a lot of teams when you get into like the sort of 10-ish to 20-ish range, you can make a lot of arguments for quarterbacks needed in franchises. And so you're going to see quarterbacks pushed up beyond the top 3. I do still think that despite what a lot of people are saying right now, and not that this couldn't change, but I do think the shelf right now is still, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. And then I think people feel like there's definitely a shelf drop to the next quarterback drafted. Now, is Penix affecting that now? Yeah, I think he definitely is. He's also throwing to 2 wide receivers, and Rome Odunze, who we'll see. I mean, he could be wide receiver 2, I think. And Jalen Polk, who, man, I mean, doesn't have, obviously his big season was this year, but I've seen receivers who look like that, who are fast like that, drafted pretty high on a limited resume. So it'll be interesting to see where Penix lands. I don't think you made the wrong decision, though. I really don't. I'm like, come on, man. Like, we're really going to pretend like Daniels didn't have
That's what I tried telling him.
Unbelievable,
he did.
Spectacular season.
He did, but I think contributing to team greatness is usually part of it, and I ignored that this year. And I just, after the last game, I kind of felt bad.
You don't think Jane Daniels has contributed to team greatness? For LSU?
They were fine.
I mean, granted,
they were okay. Yeah. They're okay.
I mean,
Their D sucked.
Look, Washington is. Let's see. I went to Michigan State, but I'm a believer in Michigan having a, particularly defensively, pretty darn good team. And that's to me, I'm like, all right, let's. I want to see how he plays against Michigan, and because I do think I lean more into that than the performance against Texas. But the thing too, people who love Penix, they'll be like, man, he made Indiana relevant. Like that team, they were like a 7-win team with him, and what have they been since? Like, and it's not easy to do that in Indiana. And had it not been for the spate of injuries, who knows what he looks like today? Because there's certainly that must have taken something off of a portion of his career. And he's a win from the pocket guy. And I'll tell you what, I know we all love the dual threat quarterbacks and all these different things, and but I also know that people think they're starting to recognize more and more that's a very depreciating aspect in the game of quarterbacks in the NFL level. And so for him to be able to win from the pocket, inside structure, a lot of teams are digging that right now, given some of the results and particularly things that they've had to look at with like Caleb Williams playing out of structure so much this year. He is from a traditional standpoint, he's a quarterback that a lot of teams are going to like. And I think, you said, talk about him spinning it. He's going to do that well in the workouts. I think he's going to look fantastic leading into the draft. So it'll be fun to watch, where it really goes for him. And it's great for the Titans because I think there's a chance that, there could be 4 quarterbacks who come off before their pick. And it's a heck of a draft to have a lot of other guys push down to you. So
yep, no question about that. Charles, Happy New Year. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports with us on Robbie and Rexroad. You can check it out every Thursday morning from 8 to 8:30 here on the program. We'll react to what Charles had to say coming up next. Make sure you make your silly underdog picks today for your chance to win weekly prizes. You can play at theGameNashville.com or the 102.5 The Game app. Silly underdog picks presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket. This is Robbie and Rexroad, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls, Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keiser here with you on this Thursday morning. We are live from the Spring Hill Heating and Cooling Game Nashville studios, keeping your home feeling comfortable all year round. Visit springhillac.com. Lots that we got into there with Charles Robinson. Joe, your thoughts on what Charles had to say on the Vrabel front and his take on his press conference yesterday, and maybe some questions that should have been asked, I guess.
Yeah, Jared's mad. Sorry, Jared, we didn't provide content for your program today. He wanted us to ask about Vrabel and Rand. We've asked
Charles about Vrabel and Rand 3 times.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what else there is to ask.
Asking about it.
Here's a Vrabel and Rand thing. I think that Mike Vrabel was unhappy the week that Will Levis started that Ian Rappaport reported that. Was that Rand? I don't know. If I'm Mike Vrabel, I think it might be. So I think he was mad about that. Other than that, I mean, wait, is this coming back?
It's back.
What is that from? Is this
it's
Jared? Is Jared under the desk?
It's back.
What is happening? For anybody who wasn't listening
apart.
in the 6 o'clock hour, I took all the stuff off the desk because I thought
got a little rattling going on.
Okay.
That was a big one.
Okay. But still, like, that's understandable when I do that it would do it. But when I was talking and it would do it, what does that mean?
Your voice is just so powerful.
Booming.
Yes.
Exactly. So, yeah, sorry, Jared. I don't have another question. So now do you think Vrabel and Rand like each other, or do you think they don't like each other? What do you think now, Charles?
Maybe next week.
Yeah. Next week, I guess we'll have basically
some sort of an answer.
Yeah, we'll have basically
Carthon's going to talk next week,
we'll
right?
have clarity. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if Carthon will talk next week. I really don't know. I'll ask today.
Okay. I feel like he should probably talk next week.
Yeah, I think he should. I think he should have talked other times too.
I agree. We'll see what happens. What did you think? John Glennon catching some strays the last couple of days here on the program. Got you and your little Trey Avery voice that you do, and now Charles is out there. Well, John, actually, you should have asked the question this way. It was good stuff.
So actually, I kind of disagree with Charles. Like he said, the question would be, the hard edge question would be, are you going to be the coach? But like I said when he was talking there, I'm like, but he can't fully answer that. He's not the guy fully in control.
The out to that, if you're him, would say, well, that's up to that's not my decision. Yeah,
right, exactly, right. So honestly, I think Glennon's question was good. It was, so do you want to be here? I mean, way
to go, John.
The question is on Vrabel's side is, do you want to be here? And so you got this Chad Forbes, who I guess got a lukewarm endorsement from Charles there, saying that he's pulling a power play and he wants that. He's not the first guy to say that. But again, what are the things he can make happen? He can try to get Rand fired, I guess. So I guess that's the question. You trying to get Rand fired?
Yeah.
Or, he can make it clear he wants out and hope that, I guess, Amy trades him or fires him. But again, like, what if you're Amy, you're not. So I don't know. I think Glennon's question was fine. It's much better than Mike. But Trey Avery though. What do you think about Trey Avery? Pro Football Focus.
When we looked up where Chad Forbes was from yesterday, and it said Noshawn Island, and I was like, well, where is that? And it's in Massachusetts. I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
More Patriot stuff. By the way, reading this, as of the 2000 census, the island had a population of 30 people. Apparently Chad Forbes is one of these 30 people, and the island is owned by the Forbes family. The more you know.
Really? That's wild. 30 people?
30 people.
That's much smaller than Climax, Michigan. I guess we could just call up the island and ask everybody if they think Chad Forbes is believable or not.
This guy reliable?
Yeah.
Bring out the yellow pages. Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Nate. Nate, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
What's up, guys? That was a very insightful interview. Like, it's amazing that in this officials and team meeting, officials are sometimes not there. That's just wild. With this debacle in the Lions game, I understand what Charles Robinson is saying, but after thinking about it and hearing multiple conversations, how is this somehow not on the Cowboys too? I understand you scheme up your defense based on the information you're given, but if you see a guy roll out, I mean, what shouldn't you follow him? I mean, I've never played football, obviously never in the NFL, but I mean, that just seems like a little bit of common sense to me.
Thanks for calling, Nate. What do you think?
I do. I agree. It's on the Cowboys. Let's rip the Cowboys too. The Cowboys should have covered them. Now, to be fair, if I'm the Cowboys, I got told 70's eligible. Yeah. I got told 70's
eligible. If 68 wants to run down the field without being eligible, sure. Knock yourself out, man.
That's the thing. Seriously, if you're on defense, that's what the ref has to do. He has to tell you who's eligible, and they announce it to the crowd too. So you don't consider 68. But I appreciate Nate trying to put on the Cowboys. Let's give them a slice of the blame pie too.
I mean, it's amazing the bullet that McCarthy dodged there, because had the Lions won that game, the only thing people will be talking about this week is how much of an idiot Mike McCarthy is by not knowing how to manage a clock, which continues to be a problem for him.
Has that always, so going back to, is that always the type of clock butchering he's done?
Yeah, but he had Rodgers, and they usually the most reliable play was to throw the ball,
right? And because there are times when I'm like, you know what, I kind of like just be aggressive, get that first down, and then it's done,
right?
But that's typically what it is over aggression rather than just take the sure 40 seconds off the clock. Yeah, no, you're right. That would be all the talk. I mean, Stephen A. all week just be clowning Mike McCarthy. Yeah.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, it's time for Pred's Pick to Click. Be the first caller at 615-737-1025, our phone number. If you guess a goal scorer for the Preds tonight, you win a pair of tickets to a Nashville Predators home game. You'll also be qualified to win a Predators prize pack we have as well. So you're going to want to be the first caller, 615-737-1025. This is Robbie and Rex Road, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot at the score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. Pick to Click is brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Visit tjandersonhomes.com to see why they are preferred so often. It's Pick to Click, now on Robbie and Rex Road.
It is that time of the day. Time for Preds Pick to Click on Robbie and Rex Road, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. List your home with TJ to get your home seen, heard, and sold. Preds back in action tonight, taking on the Calgary Flames. Puck drop 7 o'clock, pregame 6 o'clock here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Joe Rexroad has reestablished the bobbleheads here on the program.
Let's see if it makes a difference.
We'll find out.
No, it's fine. Okay.
Bobbleheads back on the table, baby.
Joe's head's not there, though.
My head's been bobbling a lot today.
The standings in Preds Pick to Click. Rexroad has taken the lead with another correct answer last time out. He's up to 10 answers correct on the season. The Lister's in second place with 9. Keyser on the board last time out, too. He moves up to 6. And I remain at 2, where I've been at for a long time. With that in mind, let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Kevin. Kevin, good morning. Thanks for calling in. Who is your pick to click tonight for tonight's game?
I got Scoresburg. Philip Forsberg.
Philip Forsberg, the selection. Kevin, thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Forsberg thanks you for not letting Robbie pick him.
Does you know who's up next? It's me. Man, should I do what's right for the local professional hockey team, or should I do what's right for myself?
I think they both were wrong typically, so I don't know, man. You do you.
I'm going Novak. I'll go Tommy Novak, which it's not going well for him
tough
lately.
Break, kid.
So add another game to it. Forsberg, Novak off the board. Rexroad, your pick to click.
Whoa. You know, the thing is, I'm always right. Like that one year, like when I went nuts, it was like Carolee Yarncroke just kept scoring whenever I picked him. You know,
Jadeveon
like,
Rexcroke.
That's right, Rexcroke. That's right. Do I do I keep going with Nyquist? He's on a heater, but I was right last time, and I usually switch, and it usually works out. Yeah, we'll stick with Gus. Let's stick with Gus.
Gus Nyquist, the selection. Forsberg, Novak, Nyquist off the board. Nick Keyser, your pick to click.
Give me Cole Smith. I like that.
I like that too.
No, none
of course you like it. I made your pick last game.
None of us picked O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Forsberg, Novak, Nyquist, Smith.
Yeah,
the selections today.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. That's where I was going to go too. If I wasn't going to go Nyquist, I was obviously probably going to go O'Reilly.
So if Novak scores tonight, is that like the Red Sox beating the Yankees?
Yeah, something like that.
The curse is flipped.
Basically, yeah. As soon as you get one right, then yeah, it's like the Lions winning the Super Bowl, which is going to happen soon, I'm sure.
Hey, a lot of motivation. Dan Campbell's been on one this week, man. He went on a radio show in Detroit. I think I sent it to you guys earlier this week, and they were kind of dancing around. Hey, why in the heck didn't you just kick the extra point after that? He's like, just say it. Go ahead and say it. What do you want me to say? On the radio, what would you say? Dan Campbell's fired up after this game.
I'd much rather have that conversation with him on a phone interview, than saying it to his face.
It's a big guy.
Yeah. Big guy, but he's lovable, Lovable goofball.
We think Vrabel?
I don't care. Let's keep going for 2.
We think Vrabel would have gone for 2 from the 11-yard line or wherever he was? I think he probably would have kicked.
I think Vrabel going for 2 the way he did for the win.
I can see that.
Yeah, like he did in London.
Yeah. But like after the penalty,
I think that then you
probably
I think he probably kicks. Yeah.
we can see a nice pointer finger up in the air from Vrabel. One. Kick the field goal.
No Vrabel today, or else that'd be a good question for him.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, along with do you hate or love or sort of
how would you
describe like Rand?
The emotion you feel when you see Rand Carthon walking around the building?
Yeah. God, the whole thing. So Jared,
next week we're gonna know.
Jared was building his show around like the latest from Charles on Vrabel and Rand. What else is there to say at this point?
We're less than a week away from being out there.
Yeah. No, I look forward to resolution. Whatever the resolution is, I look forward to that. We are. I mean, less than a week from now, okay, it'll all settle down. Blackmail will happen. Jobs will be filled, and then we'll know. I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Your thoughts on the Preds tonight as they prepare for the Calgary Flames? Big win the other night against Chicago from the standpoint of you win a game that you need to win. There's no excuse for losing that game, and they didn't, so good for them. A team in Calgary tonight that certainly is more talented and is better than Chicago is, so it's tough to compare the Flames and the Blackhawks. Now,
yeah, they're not
having
cheats.
said that, they are a team that's below you in the standings, and you're at home. Need to take advantage of this one tonight and come away with another 2 points.
Yeah, and I think it's good to handle business the way they did last game. Not like an inspiring effort or game, but that's what you got to do in 82 games. You got to have wins of all kinds. You got to just kind of grind through some of them, and you hope to get that momentum in the building. Where obviously they've had some losses recently, as we were talking about earlier with Andrew Brunette. So big deal to get this. You just got people. Teams under you in the standings, you want to win those games, take care of them, and then when you have a chance to size up with somebody, then you want to bring your best out. But I thought the win at Washington, as Andrew Brunette was talking about earlier, that's a big deal to get those 2 points, and a cool little deal too. And maybe that sort of gave them a little bit of a boost here.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they respond tonight, and I think it's going to require them to play better than they did the other night. I mean, there's 5-on-5. It was honestly pretty boring the other night. So we'll see if the Predators can respond and play a little bit better, a little bit more consistent throughout the game and come away with another win. Joe, this came across my phone screen a little bit earlier. At VolsFan1 on Twitter, going back to the Levis stuff from yesterday. I'm calling on Vols fans to burn any Titans gear you may have, preferably on top of a hill. That's how Vol Twitter is handling Levis's comments yesterday.
That's fantastic. And I want to know, like, Big Orange Mac. Like, what is Big Orange? Like, he's a Vol Twitter person that we trust and we've had on the show, friend of the show. Is there anyone who we know is a human being who feels that way?
I don't know. I mean, I think Mac he's a Packers fan, so I don't know if he's upset about it or not.
Yeah. But still, as a Vols fan living in the state,
sure,
you can have an opinion, right, on this whole thing.
Absolutely. The responses continue to pour in.
Is there a lot of agreement with that? Like, are there people like, yeah? Like,
no, a lot of them are like, yeah, I think you're going a little too far there, bud.
Okay. Yeah, see, it's not as bad.
Even Vol Twitter has a limit. It's like, all right, man, calm down a little bit.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Take your Titans merchandise and set it on fire because Will Levis talked about us yesterday. Oh. That's going to do it for us today here on the program. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Joe, have a good day.
I will. I will talk about Troy Avery today.
Jason Big Joe coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.